It means the game has been globalized over the last 30 years or so, and these games are difficult. This is not 1992 anymore, and so players are better all over the world. Teams are better, and it's not easy.
They lost this really for one reason. They just didn't have enough size.
For the second consecutive FIBA World Cup, Team USA has gone home empty-handed yet again. It's another disappointing, yet somehow kinda expected result for Team USA, and we're gonna take a look at what went wrong with this US squad and how they completely embarrassed themselves on the world stage. Alright, so the first cause of concern for this US team right from the get-go was the construction of their roster. Since the FIBA World Cup was set to take stage right before the Olympics, some of the big names and A-listers didn't want to represent Team USA 2 years in a row, which is why Steve Kerr and Grant Hill had no choice but to select from a pool of young but internationally inexperienced players. I mean, none of the 12 years representing this year's squad has ever played for the US at the senior level, and although they are quite talented overall, no player on this roster has been named to an All-NBA team. Now, aside from the lack of experience, this US roster didn't seem balanced overall. First up, you got 4 ISO-heavy, ball-dominant players in Anthony Edwards, Brandon Ingram, Austin Reeves, and Jalen Brunson. Then, you got a couple of undersized bigs like Paolo Banchero and Bobby Portis. And then, aside from Mikal Bridges and Jaren Jackson Jr., there were no players that were considered as real hard-nosed defenders in this particular lineup. I understand that Steve Kerr wanted to run this team just like the way he would run the Warriors, which is why he specifically chose these guys. However, this team's greatest strength turned out to be its greatest weakness, because as the tournament progressed, they eventually got exposed for their lack of size. I mean, Walker Kessler, their one and true traditional big, logged in just 6 minutes versus Lithuania, and for some reason, he didn't see any floor action in their loss against Germany. Paolo Banchero and Bobby Portis Jr. were just too slow on closeouts, and a lot of times they were caught napping defensively, and while Triple J was quite decent in holding the fort for Team USA, he often messed up their pick and roll coverages, which is why Kerr resorted to using small ball. Now, when this happens, the elite teams like Lithuania and Germany took advantage of this, and they just bullied Team USA down low on repeat. I mean, just check out how they abused the poor Austin Reeves on the block. And despite how good of a wing defender Mikal Bridges is, he was just too small and often looked helpless when the foreign big guys imposed their will on him. See, in this possession, Bridges should have fought hard for position and could have called Brunson for a backside help while he fronts his man. Triple J also didn't do a good job in pressuring Tice at top, and this leads to Tice making an easy lob pass inside, which resulted in an and one. Here's Bridges getting cooked inside once again. Not good, guys. Their decision to go small ball against much taller teams cost them a lot, especially in the rebounding department. I mean, in their game against Nikola Vucevic and Montenegro, they gave up 23 offensive boards, which led to 22 second chance points. Against Lithuania, they allowed 18 offensive rebounds, which got them outscored by 15 in terms of second chance points. And the trend continues against Germany, where they got out-rebounded 28-30, and as expected, they got pummeled in second chance points, 25-8. What's even more concerning than this was their lack of urgency and effort in securing the boards, and there were a lot of times that they're just ball watching whenever a shot came up. I mean, after the shot was released, look at how Banchero, Edwards, and Halliburton just watched the ball and didn't even bother to box out their respective man. And as a result, Germany took advantage of the sleeping Americans by grabbing the easy offensive board and sticking it back in. Anyways, the other concern for this US squad was their style of play. Now, we know that Kerr runs a fast-paced, free-flowing offensive play style with Golden State, and I think he planned to implement the same strategy with this young and uber-athletic US squad. Sure, the US was able to maximize their small lineup by outrunning their opponents off the floor and make quick buckets in transition. However, when the elite team slowed down the game and forced Team USA to execute in half-court sets, that's where this young team got really exposed. I mean, instead of seeing a smooth flow between people and the ball, their offense was all about ISOs and one-on-one, in which most of the time translated to a turnover. And their lack of chemistry and familiarity with one another were also quite evident in some possessions. See, down by 4 in this crucial possession, the Germans know that the US doesn't run any sets and just relies on Edwards to bail them out. And so they just focus their defense on him entirely. On the other hand, Edwards had the angle and would have attacked the corner on the ball screen, but instead he gave it to the unsuspecting Mikal Bridges. Now, Bridges gave the ball back to Edwards so he can attack the mismatch. However, for some reason, Ant shied away from the moment and passed it back to Bridges. At this point, Team USA had no idea what they're going to do. And so Bridges just took it upon himself and went for a wild drive, which got blocked by Bonga coming from the weak side. And in this crucial play, their poor decision-making and lack of familiarity was evident yet again. The US were down by 4 with under 30 seconds left, and after Edwards went through a pin-down screen, he was expecting Triple J to pop out because they're in dire need of a 3. But lo and behold, Jackson Jr. dived inside instead despite seeing Tice on a drop coverage, and that huge miscue right there prevented the US from bringing home the silver medal in this tournament. Anyways, the last prime suspect that caused their downfall was their atrocious defense. In this tournament alone, Team USA set a new heinous record for most points allowed in a FIBA tournament when they gave up 110 points versus Lithuania. And then, a few days later, they set a new record by allowing Germany to drop 113 points on them, which was eclipsed yet again in their matchup against Canada when they dropped 127 points on the Americans. And to add insult to injury, they let the defense-oriented Dillon Brooks turn into MJ by allowing him to score 39 points on 66.7% shooting from the field and 87.5% from 3. I mean, their sluggish effort on the defensive end killed them several times, and their lack of familiarity to the international rules has played a huge role in establishing their defensive schemes as well. I mean, here's Canada setting up a high ball screen for SGA. Instead of forcing Shea back to the middle, Portis allowed Shea to have a beeline drive all the way to the cup. Now, Brunson should have stepped in to prevent SGA from going all the way and forced him to kick the ball out. However, he just did a somewhat fake help out, and that leads to SGA making this practice layup shot. Now, here's an example on how the US easily collapsed on the defense. After the drive and kick by Germany, Tice takes out Triple J with a pump fake and attacks the rim. At this point, you got 4 shirts collapsing on 2 guys at the paint. The Germans took advantage of this by dropping a pass inside before kicking it out to the wide open guy for the 3. The US were also not disciplined in staying with the shooters. Here, after Obst blows by Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards left his man and showed up for help for some reason. The baseline attacker easily notices this and he just kicks out to Franz Wagner, who drilled the wide open corner 3. Now, apart from their defensive breakdowns, the US were also terrible in defending ball screens. The last thing that you would want to do with Dennis Schroeder, if you're the US, is to allow him to dissect your defense and penetrate inside. Here, Triple J did a poor job on containing Schroeder as he allowed him to do what he wanted. Once again, Edwards showed for help even if it wasn't necessary, and Schroeder made him pay by kicking Wagner in the corner. Edwards then was unable to recover in time, and the US just let Wagner have a direct line to the basket yet again. Here's Schroeder once again on the attack, and in this possession, Edwards should have forced him to go where the help was. But instead of doing that, he just let Schroeder go to his strong side and beat him off the dribble for another easy, uncontested basket going to the rim. It's crystal clear that Team USA is no longer feared like they once were, and the world has shown that they can easily embarrass them if they keep sending their C or B team in this type of global tournament.
World champion of what? The United States? Don't get me wrong. I love the U.S. at times, but that ain't the world.